Today is day 186 of the podcast, and we're going to continue to look at the fruit of the Spirit called goodness. Let me start by reading this verse from Genesis chapter 2, verses 16 and 17. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, From any tree of the garden you may freely eat, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat from it, you will surely die. So when man chose to violate this command, which he did, Adam and Eve violated that command, it was at that point we began to decide for ourselves what is good and what is evil. And instead of having a relationship with the living God where we gained our wisdom from him, we turned to an object, which really was elevating ourselves to decide what's good and what's evil. And when we do that, we always have it oriented towards for our sake. When we decide what's good and evil, we're deciding for our sake. I wrote a book with a friend, Julie Tadema, called The Ancient Deceptions. And this book addresses one of the deceptions that's been laid in place ever since the garden, and that deception that the evil one is constantly trying to get us to believe is doubting God's goodness and believing our choices. So we're going to wrestle with that a little bit more. Can we trust his good and be converted back to trusting his good? Because it's going to take that for this fruit to be born in our lives. Listen to Exodus 33 verses 18 and 19 and 34 verses 6 to 8. Because ever since the garden, God's goodness has come into question. And when Moses asks to see the glory of the Lord, listen closely to what God decides to show to Moses. Then Moses said, I pray thee, show me thy glory. And he said, I myself will make all my goodness pass before you, and will proclaim the name of the Lord before you, and I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I will show compassion on whom I'll show compassion. And then the Lord passed by in front of him and proclaimed, the Lord God, compassionate and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in loving kindness and truth, who keeps loving kindness for thousands, who forgives iniquity, transgression, and sin, yet will by no means leave the guilty unpunished, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children and the grandchildren to the third and fourth generations. And Moses made haste to bow low toward the earth and worship. This whole idea of God's goodness being seen is going to be incredibly important for us to develop this quality of fruit in our own lives. So here's today's question. When are you tempted to doubt God's goodness?